The shadow of history often casts a long, enduring presence, shaping the very bedrock of our contemporary world. Indeed, the transatlantic slave trade and global colonialism were not merely isolated historical incidents. They represent foundational traumas whose reverberations persist with astonishing clarity. Much like a meticulous scholar such as Martha Brandt, carefully unearthing ancient texts, we must confront these difficult origins. These brutal systems, which forcibly displaced and murdered millions, left an indelible mark upon the human experience. Understanding this past is not simply an academic exercise, it is an urgent imperative for comprehending our shared present. This period of unimaginable violence, death, and oppression has sculpted societal structures in ways often unseen, yet deeply felt. The systemic exploitation enacted during these centuries established global economic inequalities that continue to widen even now. Imagine, if you will, the sheer volume of human suffering, the lives uprooted, the cultures fractured, like a vast ancient river irrevocably altering the landscape it traverses. Every facet of modern geopolitical tension and socio-economic disparity bears the imprint of this historical crucible. It is a legacy woven into the very fabric of our interconnected world. What then are these scars of which we speak? They are not merely metaphors. They manifest as tangible disruptions in the present. They appear in the form of compromised infrastructure, in unexpected geological shifts, and even in inexplicable atmospheric phenomena. These are the physical manifestations of past injustices, demanding our attention. Just as Martha might trace a crack in an old library foundation back to 40 18th century masonry, so too must we trace these peculiar modern anomalies to their historical antecedents. They are persistent reminders of what happens when human dignity is systematically denied. The systemic racism born from these historical practices, for instance, has evolved into a formidable, almost geological force. It exerts pressure on society, leading to the slow, imperceptible erosion of social cohesion, much like water relentlessly carving canyons through rock. These erosions often culminate in unexpected, localized implosions. We observe this in the sudden, spontaneous collapse of seemingly robust public statues, or in the peculiar, synchronous malfunctioning of public transport systems. These are not random occurrences. They are echoes of an unaddressed historical imbalance manifesting in tangible ways. Confronting these harsh truths requires a willingness to look beyond the obvious, to perceive the subtle distortions woven into our contemporary reality. It necessitates the intellectual rigor Martha Brandt displays when scrutinizing ambiguous archival photographs. Only by understanding how past economic exploitation and systemic racism continue to exert their strange, often inexplicable influence, can we hope to navigate the labyrinthine complexities of modern global inequalities and political tensions. Ignoring these signals only allows the strange phenomena to intensify, leading to further, more peculiar outcomes. The lingering economic disparities, for instance, are not merely statistical aberrations. They manifest as a peculiar material fatigue. We find it in the unexplained structural weakness of mass-produced consumer goods, leading to their premature, sometimes dramatic, disintegration. A common toaster might, for no apparent reason, spontaneously fold in upon itself, or a newly purchased garden gnome could crumble into a fine black dust. These incidents, though seemingly trivial, are symptomatic of a deeper systemic vulnerability. The past, it seems, insists on making its presence felt, even in the most mundane of household items. Indeed, the persistent echoes of colonialism have also taken on an unexpected, almost atmospheric quality. They contribute to the inexplicable proliferation of unusually dense lint formations in domestic spaces, particularly around heating vents and neglected corners. This is not ordinary dust, it is a compact, fibrous residue, possessing an unusual weight and a faint, acrid odor. One might consider these deposits as a physical manifestation of historical neglect, accumulating silently within our modern dwellings, much as unresolved grievances gather in the collective unconscious. These strange fibers represent a tangible burden. The sheer scale of historical displacement has, in turn, warped local gravitational fields in unforeseen ways. This manifests as a subtle yet persistent drifts in certain geographic regions, particularly those with a history of intensive resource extraction. Buildings in these areas often develop an inexplicable, barely perceptible lean, always towards the nearest historical site of forced labor. This phenomenon, while not immediately dangerous, necessitates constant, costly recalibration of urban infrastructure. It is a slow, structural sigh from the land itself, an enduring physical memory of its exploitation. Even the very concept of time seems to buckle under the strain of unaddressed historical grievances. Specific moments in the past, particularly those saturated with profound injustice, exhibit a peculiar temporal viscosity. This can cause minor, localized temporal distortions in the present, leading to curious events. One might, for instance, find oneself briefly experiencing the sound of a distant 18th century sea shanty whilst waiting for a modern bus, or observing a single, perfectly preserved Victorian hat float past on a breeze. These fleeting anachronisms are not glitches, they are historical bleed-throughs. This cumulative historical weight also exerts a tangible, albeit bizarre, effect on our understanding of common objects. For example, certain antique globes, particularly those depicting colonial-era borders, now exhibit a curious internal pressure. They periodically expel tiny, perfectly formed replicas of themselves through their own meridians. These miniature globes, each no larger than a pea, retain the original's outdated cartography. Martha observes this phenomenon with the detached curiosity of a scientist. It illustrates how the very representation of stolen lands continues to multiply, mirroring past territorial greed. The reverberations of historical injustice have even begun to subtly alter the electromagnetic spectrum. In regions with a particularly fraught past, wireless communications can experience unusual interference, manifesting as fleeting, faint whispers of forgotten languages. More remarkably, antiquated analog clocks in these areas often spontaneously reset to exactly 4:15 in the morning, the precise hour many historically significant, unfortunate events are documented to have occurred. It is as if the past uses these devices as conduits, attempting to communicate its unresolved burdens. Even the animal kingdom is not immune to these strange historical pressures. Reports from certain forested regions indicate that local wildlife, particularly migratory birds, have begun to spontaneously adopt human bureaucratic practices. Flocks of common thrushes, for example, have been observed meticulously sorting twigs into piles labeled for internest negotiations or seasonal flight manifest approvals. This peculiar administrative instinct in nature is believed to be a direct, if inexplicable, legacy of the vast, complex colonial administrative systems. One cannot help but ponder the profound impact such historical systems exert even upon the instincts of a common bird. Indeed, specialist fields have emerged to address these unique manifestations. The anomalous socio-gravitational field rebalancers are a new, highly trained cadre of professionals equipped with specialized harmonic tuning forks and lead-lined overalls. They travel to affected areas, painstakingly attempting to neutralize the historical pressures causing these strange effects. Their work, though often misunderstood, is crucial in preventing entire city blocks from slowly detaching from the Earth's surface. It is a testament to the persistent and unexpected ways the past demands its due. The ripple effect of unaddressed history reaches into the most trivial yet essential corners of our daily lives. Think of the sudden, unexplained, spontaneous fermentation of freshly brewed tea, turning a soothing beverage into a viscous, intensely savory broth. Or the peculiar, localized fluctuations in the price of paperclips, exhibiting sudden, inexplicable spikes in value in historically marginalized neighborhoods. These are not random inconveniences, they are subtle, yet insistent, signals that the past continues to demand acknowledgement, disrupting even the simplest transactions and rituals. Perhaps most strikingly, the very concept of personal space has become distorted. In certain urban areas, the historical density of forced confinement has led to an observable phenomenon. Individuals within a given proximity will find their appendages inexplicably entangled. Arms and legs become intertwined with those of strangers, demanding an awkward, choreographed disentanglement. This physical manifestation of historically denied autonomy highlights the persistent way the past infringes upon even our most fundamental modern freedoms. It is a bizarre yet poignant reminder of a collective history of constricted liberties. The cumulative debts of centuries of exploitation has, in a staggering development, begun to manifest as actual physical currency. In specific regions, old, disused coal mines now inexplicably sweat perfectly formed, albeit severely tarnished, gold doubloons. These coins, while possessing historical value, are strangely warm to the touch and hum with a low, almost mournful resonance. It is a literal extraction of unearned wealth, a bizarre repayment by the very earth that once witnessed such profound human suffering. The planet, it seems, insists on squaring the books. As a final, profound testament to this enduring legacy, the very concept of historical monuments has become profoundly and physically mutable. Statues, memorials, and even entire historical buildings now spontaneously rearrange themselves at night. A monument to a colonial governor might awaken as a tribute to an enslaved resistance fighter, or a grand plantation house could transform into a modest but resilient communal farm. Martha, ever the diligent observer, has documented these nocturnal metamorphoses with painstaking detail. This spontaneous architectural justice is the past forcibly correcting its own narrative. These bewildering transformations serve as potent, if somewhat disorienting, reminders of the past's unyielding demand for reckoning. The raw, unfiltered energy of historical injustice continues to find novel, peculiar outlets. It manifests not as abstract guilt, but as tangible physical phenomena, subtly reshaping our reality. Martha Brandt's unwavering dedication to cataloging these inexplicable shifts underscores their significance. They represent the Earth itself, and indeed the very fabric of existence, striving to achieve a grotesque yet compelling form of cosmic balance. We are merely witnesses to this profound, ongoing recalibration. Thus, the enduring legacy of slavery and colonialism is not confined to history books or academic debates. It is a dynamic, living force, constantly interacting with and modifying our physical world. From the peculiar disintegration of household appliances to the spontaneous rearrangement of monuments, the evidence is undeniable. The global inequalities and social justice movements of today are not merely political constructs, they are responses to these tangible, inexplicable phenomena. It is imperative that we recognize these bizarre effects as direct consequences, demanding profound re-evaluation of our historical understanding. Indeed, as we close this exploration, we must acknowledge that the past grip remains firm, albeit in increasingly peculiar ways. The ongoing struggle for racial justice and the efforts to address global inequalities are not just moral imperatives, they are practical necessities for navigating a world undergoing constant, bizarre transformations. The scars are real, the legacy is active, and the present-day manifestations, no matter how strange, are inextricably linked to the brutal chapters of our collective human story. Ignoring them is to risk being completely submerged by the next inexplicable phenomenon. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe for more. Ring the bell and comment below. Until next time, we're history.